This is Linda Sherman at Boomer Tech Talk. I am here at the American Society of Aging in America conference, and I am with Steve Ewell, who is the Executive Director of CTA, which I'm going to let him explain to you what that is.
Great. Well, thank you. Yes, I'm with the Consumer Technology Association Foundation, which is the charitable foundation affiliated with CTA, which is a tech association. They represent over 2,200 technology companies, everything from the big global brands that many people know to a lot of small startups. And we started this foundation about 6 years ago as a way to give back to our communities. And specifically, when we were looking around at what issues we should focus in on, we decided to focus in on aging and disability issues as two areas that technology can make a really significant difference for, but also areas that maybe don't get as much attention as we felt they deserved. So over the last 5 or 6 years, we've given out over $3 million of support to different nonprofit organizations across the U.S. To use technology to help older adults and people with disabilities.
And to remind people what CTA is, it used to be CEA, which...
It was the Consumer Electronics Association for a long time, actually when it first started with the Radio Manufacturers Association, so it has morphed over the years. But yes, a couple years back we decided to, when we looked at the industry, we realized, not only is it the hardware of consumer electronics, but there's so much more in the consumer technology space. So we changed our name to the Consumer Technology Association, and then the show that CTA is probably best known for, CES, continues to be CES, and that is kind of the global stage for innovation, where we have technologies ranging from 3D printing to health and fitness to self-driving vehicles to the TVs and telephones and everything else that people see. It's really across the global spectrum of technology.
And what was the final number on the number of people that you got at 2018's CES?
At 2018, we're still waiting on the audited numbers, so we don't have the final count yet. We're expecting it'll be right around the 180,000 people that I think is right around the same number as we had the year before.
Wow. It felt like a large number of people. It was a really good conference. Thank you. I love going there every year. So I'm really glad to have everybody understand what the foundation is doing. It's a great cause, and I'm really glad you're doing that. Can you give us some insight that you have gained from doing the foundation and being interested specifically in aging and disabilities, and things that you've found for the aging population, tech that you think that our listeners should know about?
Absolutely. There's a wide range of different types of technologies that can be utilized in this space. A lot of it is, you look at things like smart home technology. That is really important for being able for people to control their environment and really have a sense of what is going on as far as knowing who's at the front door, being able to pull that up and see a picture without having to get up and go see the door. If you live in a dangerous environment or someplace where you don't want to necessarily answer the phone. It's also something of just being able to control the lights, the locks, the thermostat. Just being able to grant that control to the individuals is really important, but it also can benefit the caregivers as well, because now they can know if the thermostat is way off in one direction or the other. That might be a sign to check in, where it's not necessarily putting cameras over everyone and kind of the big brother state, but trying to figure out where is that privacy versus peace of mind level that can really benefit both older adults and their caregivers. A lot of what we fund is technology education programs as well. We see that as really important. One, just to allow seniors and people with disabilities to understand what technologies are out there and what can benefit them. And then, the other side of that is also working with the companies to really understand why it's so important to focus on these markets. So we do a lot of work in that space. The other area that we see in the disability space as being really important is some of the different technologies that can benefit people who are losing their hearing losing their vision, mobility. That side, the disability side of our mission, is separate from the aging side necessarily, but there's a lot of overlap between the two.
There's so much overlap on vision and hearing, obviously.
Absolutely. So we see some of these technologies that are using augmented reality to help people who have vision loss to be able to help to read and use machine learning to read different types of things in their environment. To actually, there's a concierge service now that can help blind individuals as they're walking down the street, give them directions using kind of a Google Glass style glasses to be able to look out and then talk to them and inform them of, oh, you're coming into a construction zone, walk around this cone here, to being able to read the menu in the restaurant and items along those lines. The other area that's really exciting is for people who are losing their hearing. Hearing aids have been around for a really long time.
And older people hate wearing them.
Absolutely, and that is one of the challenges. It's both cost, it's comfort, there's a lot of issues there. But what we've seen is the emergence of what we call personal sound amplification products, or PSAPs, which are kind of low cost. They are not hearing aids. They don't have the FDA clearance for that. But what they're looking at is being able to augment hearing for people who have very low to mild and moderate hearing loss at a very affordable rate, where it can be $200 or $300 for both ears versus $2,000 or $3,000 per ear with a hearing aid. And over the last year, the FDA has actually created an over-the-counter hearing aid legislation has passed for over-the-counter hearing aids. The FDA is now working on the rules there. So there's such an amazing opportunity now for technology to address hearing loss and hopefully have it be more consumer friendly and have an option, kind of like what we see with the glasses option of, yes, you go to the doctors and get your prescription glasses that are highly customized, and that's exactly, we're not saying do away with the hearing aid space. That is always going to be a very important part of this. But then you also have the option with glasses of going down to the local pharmacy and picking up a pair of readers if your glasses break or if you just have very mild vision loss. That's something that's an option, an affordable option. We think that there's an opportunity to do that in the hearing space as well. So that's a really exciting space for us.
Are you permitted to mention any brands?
Sure.
For those hearing aids?
Sure. I can't endorse any specific products, but there are a wide variety of different, there's a company called New Hera with their IQ Buds that has been doing some work in this space. There's a company, actually Doppler Labs had their Hear products. They actually unfortunately have just gone out of business, but there's a number of others that have been working in this space. A lot of big global brands are starting to pay attention to the different types of earbuds that could be used for augmented hearing. So it's really exciting to see what's emerging. And then we even see things like, Aftershocks is a company that they're, rather than going the earbud route, they have things that go actually over and in front of the ear and use bone conduction. So essentially, for people who have certain types of hearing loss, rather than projecting it into the ears, it goes through the bone, and that can actually help people with certain types of hearing loss to be able to still hear. The blindness community also loves it because they're able to use that, and it doesn't cover their ears, so they're still able to hear everything that's going on around them, while also being able to hear whether it's GPS instructions or just having a phone call or other things. They're able to still know what's going on around them while also getting the information through the hearing device.
Oh, excellent. 'Cause I had seen that product at some time at CES, but I didn't realize that second use. That's really important.
Well, and that's kind of one of the really exciting stories for a company like Aftershocks, and we're seeing this more and more. When they created that technology really kind of came out of military use of being able to have soldiers be able to hear things without clogging their ears, and they were really marketing this as something for marathon runners and people on bikes and other athletes. But yet when they brought it to market, the blindness community, the hearing loss community suddenly embraced this technology, and for them it was suddenly like, oh well, this is a great opportunity for us. Let's learn more about this market. And so they've really embraced the opportunity to do that. They still make this for athletes and for others that have an interest in it in the broader consumer market, but yet they've also identified the accessibility market as being a really important piece for them as well. So that's something that we really look for, is those stories of technology not necessarily designing purely for accessibility or purely for aging. That's an important piece to take into consideration. But when you're able to build that into general consumer technology, we see that as really important, because that brings the economies of scale and the affordability for a lot of these products to reach that broader market.
Oh, that's a very good point. So, but for these different technology companies to hear about each other is obviously also very important. And you told me that you created a list. There's no longer like a space for everybody to be in that addresses accessibility, but that you had made a list and that there might be a website link for that. I don't know if you know it right now,
Sure.
but we can add it to the video description if you get it later. Do you have it?
Absolutely. It's ces.tech/accessibility. And
Oh,
that
you do have
is,
it. Oh,
yep. So that is essentially, over the last few years, we built up the accessibility market. The way CES is structured, there's different marketplaces. So there's the health and fitness marketplace, there's the automotive marketplace, and so on. We created an accessibility marketplace, which has a few companies that are really focused specifically on the accessibility market. So companies like, VFO, which does blind or braille readers and magnifiers, Facility, which makes accessible websites, and other companies along those lines. But what we found is so many different companies that do accessible technology were already in the show, and they were already established in the gaming marketplace or established in the health and fitness marketplace or other areas of the show. So rather than trying to figure out how we move them all there, and quite frankly, when we look at accessibility and when we look at aging, we don't think it has to be a separate section. It really should be across the entire show. So that's where, this year we decided to take a step back and rethink it a little bit, and came up with, essentially we created this web page as part of the CES website. We also had a, 2-page document that we had in the press room at CES this year to be able to help share, here are some examples of not just where the accessibility marketplace is, but where everything else is across the show. So we could help tell some of those stories, because there were such amazing products. We talked about some of the things like Nuheara and Aftershocks and companies like that, but there was, Orcam, which had something that attaches to the glasses and helps read for people who have vision loss, which was over in the health and fitness area, or they may have been in the wearables section. And then, we actually had an accessible self-driving vehicle. We had worked with IBM and Local Motors, a small automotive manufacturer that actually 3D prints their vehicles. And we had spent the last year going around to senior communities, going around to different disability organizations, and really collecting ideas of what would the ideal situation or experience be for older adults and people with disabilities in an accessible self-driving vehicle. So we collected a lot of those ideas and then had that on display right in the middle of the central hall, kind of right as people walked into that grand lobby. They had a chance to see Accessible Ollie. So that was kind of a really exciting opportunity for us to highlight that and have it be, front and foremost among some of the technologies at the show.
So when you're planning your CES visit, these different tracks have a subdomain. You're saying, so there's slash accessibility, there's slash other things, right?
There is, there's a couple different things. So, on the show floor, we divide up the show into a wide variety of different marketplaces. So, yes, it can be, everything, as I was saying, from,
But the website has those sections?
The website does have sections, yes, absolutely. So,
Like?
if you go on there, it's health and fitness. I believe actually sleep tracking has its own section.
Sleep was huge this year.
It is amazing, and it's an important piece. I mean, we spend a great deal of our life sleeping, so and it's something that many of us who run around and don't necessarily get enough sleep, if we can help benefit and ensure that everyone is, that's an important piece. So yes, if you go to the ces.tech website, there's a menu there, and in it lists all the different types of subpages that are focused on different subjects.
Got it. So don't forget, when you're planning your CES 2019 trip, that you check out the accessibility section and the other sections of interest to you. And I encourage all technology companies to see where you can cross-link with accessibility and helping people in our aging communities and people with disabilities as well. I gave my Twitter handles at the beginning of this. I want you to give your foundations.
Absolutely. Well, people can follow us on Twitter at CTA Foundation, or they can go to ctafoundation.tech. It's .tech, and that has all the information about our foundation and a lot of the work that we're doing. And I'd love to hear from people. If there's technologies that they see working well out there, that's something that we want to be able to help highlight. And we also hope to engage with both the advocacy communities, the representatives of seniors and older adults and people with disabilities, as well as working with companies that are interested in working in this space.
Wonderful. We're very happy at Boomer Tech Talk to raise the awareness of your foundation, and I'm so glad that you took the time to talk to us today.
Great.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you for having me.